We'll now adjourn the Joint Committee on Rules and reconvene the Rules Committee. We have one item on our regular agenda. It is AJR 32 by Mr. Gatto. Let me lay out the ground rules for how we're going to proceed. The author will be given the opportunity to present his joint resolution. Following that, we will have those who are in support of the resolution allowed to give testimony. We will give up to a absolute maximum of 20 minutes for those who are in support. Following that 20 minutes, anyone else who is in support would be allowed to simply give their name and their position of support. Next, we will go to those who are in opposition to the resolution. Those in opposition will have no more than 20 minutes total. Following that, we will again allow those who are continue to be in opposition and have not yet spoken to simply provide their name and their position. Following that, the committee will consider the item. So let me welcome Mr. Gatto and ask him to present his AJR 32.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's probably one of the biggest cliches in the legislature that this is a simple item, but this really is a simple item. AJR 32 is an important measure that is an expression of support for people who have embraced our own American values of democracy and self-determination. Nagorno-Karabakh, also known as Artsakh, is an independent republic located within the Southern Caucasus region that straddles the continents of Europe and Asia, and it's populated by an overwhelming majority of ethnic Armenians. In 1921, during the throes of the Armenian genocide and vast land grabs that were unprecedented until World War II, Nagorno-Karabakh was placed as an autonomous region under the jurisdiction of the newly created Soviet Azerbaijani Republic. The fall of the Soviet Union renewed and strengthened the resolve of the majority ethnic Armenian citizenry there to create a new independent nation. The United States Senate, in November of 1989, adopted Senate Joint Resolution 178, expressing the United States' support for the fundamental rights and the aspirations of the people of Nagorno-Karabakh for a peaceful and fair settlement. In 1991, the people of Nagorno-Karabakh voted in favor of independence, and on January 6, 1992, the democratically elected legislature of the Republic formally declared independence. In the last 20 years, NKR has continued its quest for recognition as an independent nation via international negotiations. The U.S. government has shown consistent support for the people there. In 1992, the United States passed Section 907 of the Freedom Support Act, which limits assistance to Azerbaijan until it takes steps to cease all blockades and other offensive uses of force against Armenia and NKR. And the United States government, over Azerbaijan's protests, has provided direct assistance to Nagorno-Karabakh since at least 1998. AJR 32 simply expresses this legislature's support of a peaceful resolution to these disputes, a support that has been expressed by similar resolutions passed by the legislatures of Louisiana, Rhode Island, Maine, and Massachusetts. And AJR 32 also urges the federal government to take the next step to recognize this plucky, determined nation. This year, 2014, is the 100th anniversary of World War I, and if recent history has taught us anything, it's that when you try to take a group that has been, in many cases, oppressed and prevented from having the basic human right of self-determination, and you take a certain ethnic group and you try to make them part of another country, that doesn't work. That does not lead to a world where freedom and peace prevail. This resolution is in the spirit of countless others that this legislature has passed over the years that have expressed the values of our state and our people in California. This includes speaking out against genocide in Darfur and Sudan and weighing in on the conflict in Sudan and South Sudan. This includes speaking out for divestment from companies that do business with Iran, speaking out against apartheid, starting the divestment movement against apartheid here in the 1980s, and just last year speaking out against the treatment of LGBT people in Russia. It is not without precedent that we as a legislature speak out in the name of justice in other parts of the world. This resolution is brought forward in the name and the spirit of justice, and I will ask for an aye vote on it. I will save some of my time for my close to answer the inevitable questions that I'm sure will arise. I want to introduce briefly, if the chairman permits it, my co-author on the measure, which is Mr. Kacho Chajan, to speak briefly. And then we have three witnesses who will use the time allotted by the committee, and that's Seva Kachadorian, Nora Hovsepian, and Alina Nalbandian. Thank you.
Mr. Chajan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, honorable members. I'm pleased to support AJR 32, which will encourage and support the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic's effort to develop as an independent nation. Last fall, I was able to travel with the delegation of our colleagues to the ANCA-WR region and see firsthand the constant threat under which these ethnically Armenian people live. As Americans, we have recognized there is a constitutional right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which is clearly stated in our Declaration of Independence. We must also support the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic in their pursuit of these same rights. Lastly, I understand the long-standing Assembly policy on refraining from taking up foreign policy issues. Since the federal government has sole authority over foreign policy, this is exactly why this resolution only urges the President and Congress to support ANCA-WR's democratic independence. And let me restate, this resolution does not represent the United States position on ANCA-WR. However, I do feel that it is appropriate that the California legislature weigh in on this important issue. California is home to the largest population of Armenians in the United States. This resolution simply represents the state of California standing up for what they believe is right and encourages the federal government to do just that. I respectfully ask for your aye vote and thank for the author for bringing this important resolution forward.
And thank you. And now there were three witnesses identified by the author who would be speaking in support. If they would please come forward and take one of these chairs, and we'll begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I would also like to thank Assemblymember Gatto and Chajan and all of the other co-authors for Assembly Joint Resolution 32. As you are already aware, Assembly Joint Resolution 32 encourages and supports Nagorno-Karabakh Republic's continued efforts to develop as a free, democratic, and independent nation, and urges our President and Congress to support the self-determination, democratic development, and independence of the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, and most importantly, a peaceful solution to the present-day conflict. Karabakh declared independence from Azerbaijan as a result of continued persecution, oppression, and human and civil rights violations by the Azeri dictatorial rule during and after the Soviet Union. In fact, it was attached to Azerbaijan as an autonomous region by Joseph Stalin in 1921 and has suffered under Azeri rule from that time onward. As declassified Central Intelligence Agency reports confirm, Nagorno-Karabakh is historically Armenian and has maintained even more autonomy than the rest of Armenia throughout the centuries. Karabakh, or as Armenians call it, Artsakh, was connected to Armenia in ancient times, a connection that was lost after the division of the Armenian kingdom in 387 AD. Although predominantly Armenian, over time Artsakh fell under Arab, Mongol, and Persian rule. Given the makeup of the populace, again that of predominantly being Armenian, the Persian Empire granted the Armenians of the region autonomy. Autonomous Artsakh survived until the Russian conquest of the Persian Empire in 1828. Under the Russian rule, a deliberate effort was made to link Artsakh economically with Baku province, later to be named Azerbaijan. As I stated before, this policy of weakening the Armenian natives of Artsakh was finally institutionalized by Joseph Stalin in 1921 when he officially attached the region to the Soviet Azerbaijani Republic. This was done to combat the democratic aspirations of the Armenian populace. Under the policy of perestroika, on February 20, 1988, the Karabakh Soviet of People's Representatives, the equivalent of the parliament of the region, with the votes of 110 to 17, passed a resolution to transfer the region to Armenia. This action of a regional Soviet was unprecedented in the history of the Soviet Union, but it was in full accordance with the USSR Constitution, specifically the Article of Rights of Secession. This action also inspired people throughout the Soviet Union to stand up against tyranny for their rights and freedoms, helping to bring democracy to millions and contribute to world peace. Although this action was peaceful in nature, it garnered a brutal response from the Azeri government through pogroms of ethnic Armenians living in different parts of Azerbaijan and military attacks against the peaceful citizens of Artsakh. On December 10th, 1991, Artsakh held an independence referendum in which 82% of all voters participated, and 99% of the voters voted for independence. On January 6, 1992, the leaders of Artsakh declared independence as the Republic of Mountainous Karabakh. Rather than accepting the will of the people, once again, the Azerbaijani government responded through military actions. Since proclaiming independence, the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic has registered significant progress in democracy building, which was most recently demonstrated in 2012's presidential elections and were assessed by international observers as free and transparent. While this fledgling republic has committed to democracy, Azerbaijan has been ruled by one family, the Aliyevs, who have held onto power in Azerbaijan for the past 2 decades through a combination of fraudulent elections, arrested opposition candidates, beating protesters, and curtailing freedoms of the press. Recently, Aliyev has escalated the level of rhetoric, threatening to not only invade Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, but also the Republic of Armenia. To the international community, the United States still represents the ideals of freedom and the pursuit of happiness, which our founding fathers established on a system of self-determination. That is why the United States Congress has repeatedly expressed support for the legitimate aspirations for freedom of the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. Within the United States, the state of California and its legislature has been leading an adamant voice towards those ideals and in advocating for human rights of others. California was at the forefront against apartheid, at the forefront against nations who commit genocide, or nations who deny genocide, or that the Holocaust happened, and at the forefront to support nations who are struggling to gain and maintain the ideals of freedom and democracy through a system of self-determination. As Californians, we have always been proud of our state's record reinforcing the principles of democracy and the right to self-determination. Yet California has lagged behind other states who have passed similar resolutions to AJR 32. That is why we urge an aye vote on Assembly Joint Resolution 32. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to Assembly Members Gatto and Achajan and all the other co-sponsors of this resolution, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nora Hovsepian, and I'm the chair of the Armenian National Committee of America's Western Region. I'm here today respectfully to urge you on behalf of the ANCA-WR and the nearly 1 million Armenian American constituents living in California to unanimously pass AJR 32. Rest assured that the Armenian American community throughout California stands unequivocally united with the people of Nagorno-Karabakh in their expression of self-determination and freedom, and hundreds of emails have been sent to offices in this building from the Armenian American constituents saying so. Like our own founding fathers, the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh had the courage to rise up against a dictatorial empire after living under Soviet tyranny for nearly 70 years, and to boldly assert their right to live free. As Americans, we have a moral imperative grounded in our own courageous history to protect basic human rights, even if they are half a world away. As Californians, we have a long and solid history of standing up for the rights of all oppressed peoples, and especially for the Armenians, as they continue to bear the consequences of destructive actions not only by the Ottoman Turks, but also by Soviet dictators and by Azerbaijan. In the aftermath of the Armenian genocide during World War I, perpetrated at the hands of the Ottoman Turks, a fact which is unequivocally recognized each April by the state of California, the first independent Republic of Armenia lasted from 1918 to 1921, when it had to surrender to the new Soviet Union. Neighboring Azerbaijan also became a Soviet Socialist Republic at that time. As an aside, let me briefly mention the connection to all of this to AJR 41, co-authored by Assembly Members Ian Calderon and Scott Wilk, and recently passed unanimously by the California State Assembly, which recognized the American Near East relief effort from 1915 to 1930, whereby hundreds of thousands of survivors and orphans of the Armenian genocide were rescued by American philanthropy. Ironically, the victims were not just in Ottoman Turkey. In fact, the New York Times reported on May 3, 1920, that the head of Near East Relief called for urgent help to save the Armenians in Baku and other areas of Azerbaijan, as they were being annihilated by the Azeris even then. Despite the Azeris' ethnic cleansing of Armenians living in Azerbaijan, the post-Soviet era added further insult to injury when Joseph Stalin's attempt to divide and conquer the indigenous Christian Armenian population by arbitrarily carving out the 95% indigenous region Armenian region of Nagorno-Karabakh and handing it to Soviet Azerbaijan in blatant violation of the most basic national, territorial, and human rights of the Armenian people. Under Soviet rule, the people of Nagorno-Karabakh endured decades of continued repression and discrimination. 65 years later, in 1988, they launched a historic challenge to Soviet authority, peacefully demonstrating in the streets and calling for secession from Azerbaijan and reunification with Armenia. As the first ever expression of free will within the Soviet Union, this was the spark which ignited its dismantling. The Azeris responded with another campaign of ethnic cleansing and pogroms against Armenians living in various Azeri cities, including Baku, Sumgait, and Kirovabad. During that time, thousands of Armenians were killed and over 350,000 were forcibly deported from Azerbaijan. Thousands of these refugees found refuge here in California, and you will hear from one of them, Alina Nalbantian, shortly. Upon the official dissolution of the Soviet Union, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and other former Soviet socialist republics declared independence as well. Thus, notwithstanding current Azeri claims of territorial integrity, it is clear that Nagorno-Karabakh has never, ever been a part of independent Azerbaijan's territory. For the past 26 years, NKR has been a model of democracy in the region, with international observers overwhelmingly praising the people of Artsakh for holding free and fair parliamentary and presidential elections, as the people there enjoy every social and civil right that we hold so dear and near and dear in this country. It maintains an American-style constitutional system of government with 3 branches, duly elected representatives, and checks and balances ensuring democratic ideals. And the delegation from this body, consisting of Assembly members Achajian, Nazarian, Wilk, and Brown, saw this firsthand last September. In 1994, a ceasefire to armed conflict was negotiated and remains in effect until today, although NKR's borders remain blockaded by Azerbaijan. Its airport is rendered useless due to Azeri threats to shoot down any civilian aircraft which dares to use it. Azeri President Aliyev, widely known as one of the most corrupt and despotic heads of state anywhere, has publicly proclaimed in hate speech all Armenians of the world as enemies of Azerbaijan. And more than 300 ceasefire violations per week occur as Azeri snipers and soldiers shoot at innocent civilians and border troops, both in NKR and in Armenia. I ask that as the state which is home to the largest concentration of Armenians outside Armenia, California heeds the call of its own County of Fresno, City of Los Angeles, City of Glendale, City of Highland, and City of Pico Rivera in recognizing the independent democratic Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, and that it urges President Barack Obama and the United States Congress to do the same by unanimously passing AJR 32. Thank you.
Honorable Assembly members, good afternoon. My name is Alina Nalbandian. Today I live here in Sacramento, California. I work for...
Microphone a little closer. Thank you.
My name is Alina Nalbandian, and today I live here in Sacramento, California. I work for State of California Franchise Tax Board. I am blessed with a family and 3 beautiful daughters. I am here today, first of all, to thank you all for considering this important issue of human rights, freedom, and dignity. And I say thank you on behalf of myself and on behalf of every Armenian American present here in this room. Today, I live in Sacramento, but I was born in a small town of Shahumian in the northern part of Nagorno-Karabakh. I was living a normal and peaceful life on the land of my ancestors until the Azeris decided that Armenians should have to leave their homes just because they were Armenians, just because they dared to challenge the injustice of being treated as second-class citizens, just because we wanted to preserve our culture, our language, our churches, and cemeteries of our forefathers. Still, those days, I, and many like me, were pleasantly naive to the extent of danger that surrounded us. From 1988 to 1994, in response to Karabakh peaceful legislative demand from Soviet authority to respect our rights, Azeri authorities have launched a campaign for physical extermination for every Armenian man, woman, children, including me. But I was one of those teenagers who was lucky to survive. By late 1990, as the threat of full-scale military aggression was becoming imminent, Azeri cut electricity, gas, food, and all kinds of supply throughout the Karabakh. They surrounded us. They isolated us from the world. It was then that the U.S. Senate adopted resolution in support for freedom, aspiring of Nagorno-Karabakh, but the Soviet system was too closed and unwilling to respond. Having no road connections to Armenia, the delivery of humanitarian supplies by helicopter remained our only hope for survival. However, we were constantly attacked by Azeris, and soon the last connection was cut off. My geography teacher, along with her unborn child, died on one of those helicopters that were shut down by Azeri soldiers and their supporters. In April of 1991, Azeris military joined with Soviet internal troops, launched what later became called Operating Ring, and it was the first stage of the full-scale aggression against the civilian population of Karabakh, capturing and forcing thousands to flee. Many people have died, and many simply disappeared. Their fate remains unknown. 1992 was particularly bloody. Azeris began to destroy our settlement with Grad missile, which is also known as hail in English, a weapon of mass destruction that had been forbidden by European conventions. I remember being in school when we felt the earth shake, glass shattered around us as we ran to save our lives. I finally got home. My classmate Marina was less lucky. She lost both of her hands while playing volleyball outside with her sister, who was killed. In April of 1992, my uncle was abducted and he was murdered. All the stories are few among very many tragedies experienced by every family in Karabakh. In April of 1992, Armenian self-defense teams could not resist the Azeri attacks. 30,000 Armenians were forced to flee on foot through forests and mountains under gunfire of Azeri soldiers. At least 400, mostly elderly and sick people who couldn't leave were massacred in their own homes. That day, we lost everything. We became refugees with no home, no hope for normal life. I still remember how it feels to sleep hungry, to wake up in the middle of the night from the military jets and the bombs falling on us. I often look back and it feels like it was a nightmare, a horror movie, something that no one should experience in their lifetime. However, today I stand before you guys, or I sit before you guys, grateful for my family and surrounded about 1,000 Shahumian Armenians who have found shelter here in the United States, Sacramento, California. I am grateful that my family, my children, and all of us enjoy freedom, security, and great democracy. At the same time, I want to remember and love our brothers and sisters who continue to live in Karabakh despite all the difficulties, despite the Azeri threats of renewal aggression, despite the horrible stories that are so fresh in our memories. Dozens of thousands kids and their parents today build their lives in Karabakh. They cherish the dream, security, and future. And I ask of you, on behalf of those freedom-loving people, on behalf of everyone who have chosen to protect freedom, I ask you to prevent another aggression against Karabakh. I ask you to support what we have achieved throughout enormous sacrifice. I ask you to join millions of Americans across the United States and support the rights of Karabakh to live its own life under a government of its own choosing, according to its vision of democratic and open society. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, thank you. If there are others who would like to express their support, we have a microphone at the end. You may form a line. You would just say your name and that you support AJR 32, please. Those in support.
My name is Haik Bagdasarian, and I urge you to support AJR 32. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Virat Hosurian of Los Angeles County, and I urge you for your support in AJR 32. Thank you.
My name is Ara Makashan, and I urge you to vote for AGR 32.
My name is Khachik Tazian. I urge you to vote yes on AGR 72.
My name is Daniel. I like to support an AGR 32.
My name is Krikor Maloyan from the San Fernando Valley of LA County, and I urge you to support AGR 32. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Garo Manjikian, and on behalf of the Armenian National Committee of Sacramento, I urge you to support.
My name is Nora Hovsepian, and I urge you to support AJR 32. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marianne Idanian from Turlock, and I urge you to support AJR 32.
My name is Ani Peterson, and support AJR 32.
My name is Arsen Petrosian. I'm urging to support AJR 32. Thank you.
My name is Lita Petrosian, and I support AGR 32. Yeah.
Anyone else who would like to express support? Seeing none, would ask the witnesses to please step down, and would invite witnesses who would like to present opposition to AJR 32 to come forward. Again, there will be first set of witnesses will have a maximum of 20 minutes, and following that, we'll take others in opposition.
Dear Assembly members, I will be interpreting the testimony of Mr. Yevdayev, who will give his testimony in Azerbaijani language.
Hörmətli Assembly üzvləri, mən Milik Yevdayev, Azərbaycanda Yahudi icmasının sədriyəm. Belə bir qərəzli sənədin qanunverici orqana təqdim olunması məni sarsıtdı. Məhz bu xəbər uzaq Azərbaycandan bura gəlməyimə səbəb oldu. Yahudi icmasının narahatlığını sizə çatdırmaq istəyirəm.
Dear Assembly members, my name is Milik Yevdayev, and I am the head of Azerbaijani Jewish community. When I first saw the reports on this resolution, I was appalled that such a biased document was even introduced at the legislature.
Bu qətnamə ölkəm Azərbaycana qarşı törədilmiş işğal, etnik təmizləmə və dəhşətli ədalətsizliyin örtbasdır edilməsindən başqa bir şey deyil.
This resolution is nothing but an attempt to cover up a horrible injustice, occupation, and ethnic cleansing that were committed against my country, Azerbaijan.
Hazırda 68 yaşım var. Bütün ömrümü Azərbaycanda yaşamışam. Dağlıq Qarabağ müharibəsini öz gözlərimlə görmüşəm. Dəhşətli müharibə idi. İcmamızın bir çox üzvləri həmən müharibədə Azərbaycanı müdafiə edərək həlak oldular. Ancaq nə ermənilər, nə də Azərbaycanlılar bu müharibəni istəmirdilər. Əsrlər boyu sülh şəraitində birgə yaşadıqdan sonra niyə düşmən olmalıdırlar?
I am 68 years old. I have lived my entire life in Azerbaijan. I have seen the Nagorno-Karabakh war with my own eyes. A terrible war. Many members of our Jewish community died in that war while defending Azerbaijan. Neither Armenians nor Azerbaijanis wanted this war and hostility. Why would they wish to become enemies after many centuries of peaceful coexistence?
Sovetlər dövründə işimlə əlaqədar Dağlıq Qarabağa sayısız hesabsız səfərlər etmişəm. Mənim Qarabağda və Bakıda çoxlu erməni dostlarım olub və bu dostluğum hələ də davam edir.
During the Soviet Union, I visited Nagorno-Karabakh countless times, and I had and continue to have many Armenian friends, both in Karabakh and Baku.
Mən o zaman heç vaxt ermənilərin arasında Azərbaycanı tərk etmək istəyən insan görməmişəm.
Never I witnessed any desire among Armenians to get separated.
Ermənilər Azərbaycan kimi çox millətli və tolerant cəmiyyətin üzvləri kimi rahat və firavan yaşayırdılar. Ancaq Ermənistanın törətdiyi işğal siyasəti bütün bunlara son qoydu. İki qardaş xalq düşmənə çevrildi.
Armenians fully enjoyed living in Azerbaijan in this multi-ethnic and tolerant society, but the invasion by Armenia ended it all. It turned two brotherly people into enemies.
Dökülen bütün kanlara ve gözyaşlarına büyük sayıda Azerbaycanlıların ev eşiklerinden didergin sanılmalarına bakmayarak bugün 25 binden çok Ermeni Bakıda ve diğer bölgelerimizde emin-amanlıq şəraitində yaşayır ve ülkəni asla terk etmek istemirler. Bu da öz növbəsində Azerbaycan xalqının yüksek medeniyetinin tezahürüdür.
But despite much blood and tears shed, and despite expulsion that the Azerbaijani people had to suffer, today you can find over 25,000 Armenians still peacefully living in Baku and other major cities of Azerbaijan, and they don't want to leave. It speaks volumes about the high level of tolerance of the Azerbaijani people.
Azerbaycan bütün dünya için numune olabilecek tolerantlık modeline maliktir. Bunu Azerbaycan Yahudilerinden daha yaxşı heç kim izah edebilmez. Biz Yahudiler 2000 ildən artıqdır ki, heç bir diskriminasiya ve təqibə məruz qalmadan Azerbaycanda sülh, mehribanlıq ve emin-amanlıq şəraitində yaşayırıq.
Azerbaijan offers a rare example of tolerance and inclusion for the entire world. And no one can better testify it than the Azerbaijani Jews. We Jews have been living in Azerbaijan in peace and dignity since over 2,000 years without any persecution or discrimination.
Bugün 30 bindən çox Yahudi Azerbaycanda yaşayır. 11 sinagog faaliyet gösterir. 2 məktəbimiz var, 2 kollecimiz var, neçə uşaq bağçalarımız var. Yahudiler həmişə öz Azerbaycanlı qardaşlarından ancaq və ancaq ehtiramdan başka heç ne görmeyiblər. Azerbaycanda heç vaxt antisemitizm olmayıb.
And today over 30,000 Jews continue to live in Azerbaijan. There are 11 synagogues in Azerbaijan. The Jews have always seen nothing but respect from the Muslim Azerbaijani brothers. In Azerbaijan, there has never been an anti-Semitism.
Ben bu qətnamənin 8 may tarixində Assemblymember gündəliyinə getireceği barədə planları eşitdikdə məyus oldum.
I was also very much disappointed to learn about the plans to consider this resolution on the Assembly floor on May 8th.
Bu tarix Azerbaycan Yahudiləri üçün 2 qat ağrı deməkdir.
This date is a very painful date for the Jews of Azerbaijan in two regards.
Birincisi 92. ildə bu tarixdə Azerbaycanlıların yaşadığı Şuşa şəhəri işğal olunub. Bu işğal nəticəsində 50 bin Azerbaycanlı öz yurd yuvasını itirib, minlərlə insan tələf olub.
First of all, on this date in 1992, the Azerbaijani populated town of Shusha in Karabakh was invaded by Armenia, with 50,000 Azerbaijanis expelled and thousands of them were killed.
Bu həm də ona görə kədərli tarixdir ki, bizim Yahudi icmamızın 23 yaşlı gənc üzvü Azərbaycanın milli qəhrəmanı Albert Agaronov öz Azərbaycanlı qardaşları ilə çiyin-çiyinə Şuşanı müdafiə edərkən həlak olub.
But it's also a very sad day because a 23 years old young member of our Jewish community, Albert Agaronov, was killed on this day while defending Shusha alongside his Azerbaijani brothers.
Mən siyasetçi deyiləm, din xadimiyəm.
Thankfully, I'm not a politician. I'm a man of religion.
Mən Amerikada bütün siyaset lokaldır deyildikdə heç nə başa düşə bilmirəm.
I don't even understand what they mean when they say in America all politics is local.
Mən sizi öz ürəyinizin səsini dinləməyə çağırıram. Tərəfsiz olmağa çağırıram. Həqiqəti inkar etməməyə çağırıram və bu qərəzli qətnaməni rədd etməyə çağırıram.
I simply call on you to listen to your hearts, to be impartial, not to ignore the truth, and to reject this biased resolution.
Bu qətnamə yalnız qarşılıqlı nifrəti, ədavəti və gərginliyi artıracaq. Sülh imkanlarına ciddi maniyə olacaq.
This resolution will only stir more mutual hatred, animosity and tension, and will strongly damage any prospects for peace.
Əminəm ki, Ermənilər və Azərbaycanlılar öz gözəl vətənlərində yenidən birgə yaşayacaq, yəni öz sevinç və kədərlərini bölüşə biləcəklər. Əminəm ki, bütün bunları biz öz gözlərimizlə görəcəyik.
I'm sure that Armenians and Azerbaijanis can once again live together in this beautiful, tolerant, and inclusive society. They can once again share each other's joy and pain. And I'm sure I will see it in my lifetime.
God bless you all. Amen.
I'm sorry, no applause, please. No applause. Next.
So, Honorable Chair, honorable members of the committee, my name is Ismail Rustamov, and I'm the president of the Azerbaijan American Council in Los Angeles. I want to express our community grave concern over this resolution. The resolution is extremely biased and factually incorrect. The actual essence of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is deliberately distorted to mislead the Senate of the state legislature. I would like to draw your kind attention to some important facts. First of all, contrary to what draft resolution claims, Nagorno-Karabakh has not been historical Armenian territory. It was part of different Azerbaijani domains and states throughout the history. In fact, the word Karabakh is an Azerbaijani word that means black garden. Second, the whole international community, including the United States, recognizes Nagorno-Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan. The United Nations Security Council passed 4 resolutions in 1993 recognizing Nagorno-Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan. With the help of Russia, Armenia invaded these regions as well as 7 other regions of Azerbaijan. The most tragic consequence of this occupation was the horrible ethnic cleansing carried by Armenian troops against Azerbaijani population. Armenia expelled around 800,000 Azerbaijanis from these territories. Many cities are still empty and then completely ruined. These people are still refugees in their own country and are not allowed by Armenia to return to their homes. This so-called Nagorno-Karabakh Republic is not recognized by any country in the world as an independent state. Even Armenia itself does not recognize it as an independent state. So why would California need to do it? That's the question. Moreover, despite much pressure from Russia and Iran, Azerbaijan has always been a reliable ally to the United States and State of Israel. But Armenia is a big friend of Russia and Iran. We saw this very clearly during the Crimea crisis, when Armenia wholeheartedly supported Russia alongside with such countries like North Korea, Syria, and Sudan. This is a typical example how Armenia has allowed itself to become Russian outpost in the region. So now, given all these facts, why would your esteemed legislature need to adopt this hugely biased resolution, which contradicts the stated official position of the United States government and its foreign policy, a resolution that contradicts the U.S. and international law? Does the author realize that the adoption of this resolution would damage the peaceful settlement of the conflict? Does he wish to create a war instead of peace in the region? The author should not mislead the Assembly members with the false propaganda reflecting the wishes of Armenian lobby. Dear committee members, considering all these facts, we urge you not to allow special interest groups deceive you. Reject this biased and divisive resolution. Thank you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Elnur Aydinov. I'm a member of Azerbaijani community in California. I'm personally affected by this Karabakh conflict and subsequently by this resolution. My family was a victim of ethnic cleansing committed by Armenia. That's why I'm here. The expulsion of Azerbaijanis actually did not start from Karabakh, but well before Armenia itself. Prior to 1988, my family was one of the tens of thousands of families living in Armenia. About 350,000 Azerbaijanis were living in this country. But when the conflict started in 1988, the life of my family and others in Armenia became intolerable. The people whom we called neighbors for many centuries suddenly became aggressive and hostile, demanding us to leave our homes and livelihoods. I was very little, about a year old, when this exodus started. My entire family, about 60 people, was brutally subjected to this ethnic cleansing, and we were not the only ones. I remember my grandmother telling the stories how the first cohorts of Azerbaijanis were forced to leave their homes in Megri and Kafan regions. Those were the first places where Azerbaijanis were subject to mass beatings and brutal aggression by local Armenians. In many cases, people were fleeing their homes barely clothed, leaving their belongings behind. It was a terrible period when hundreds of women, children, and elderly were expelled from Armenia to different parts of Azerbaijan. This exodus was devastating to my family and people. I lost my entire childhood. My grandparents died as refugees, longing for their homes and lands. Their last wish was to be buried in their native village. We were not able to fulfill this wish, and it still hurts me a lot. And now, here, the Armenian lobby is trying to make the world ignore this brutality. This puppet regime in Nagorno-Karabakh is built on blood and tears of innocent people. The Armenian lobby now wants you to recognize such a regime. I urge you not to be deceived by them. Reject this unjust resolution.
Thank you. There's 5 minutes left.
I am Tural Badirkhanlu. I got my bachelor and master degrees from MIT. I work for Google. I am founder of a company funded by Google Ventures. As a member of Azerbaijani American community, I'm strongly opposed to this resolution. It's clear that AGR 32 seeks to force the California legislature into assuming a one-sided position to the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. The resolution refers to national liberation movement in Nagorno-Karabakh and deliberately neglects to mention how this so-called movement was carried out in reality. I'll tell you how, based on some facts. It was carried out through many horrible war crimes that Armenia committed against Azerbaijani civilians. The largest crime among them was the massacre of Azerbaijani civilians in Khojaly. In February 26 of 1992, the armed forces of Armenia occupied this town and killed over 600 defenseless Azerbaijani civilians, including hundreds of children, women, elderly people. Human Rights Watch called this massacre the largest massacre in the conflict and placed the responsibility for it on Armenian armed forces. The distinctive feature of this massacre was its brutality. Many of the killed Azerbaijanis were murdered with unusual cruelty. They were tortured, scalped, beheaded, blinded. Women and children were raped. Babies were butchered. Pregnant women were beyond it. There are reports of babies being thrown into boiling water. I have some pictures. Babies were not, no one was saved. This is a dead person. This is a father holding a body of a dead child. These are dead children. The bodies are scattered. The elderly people are scattered. This is a man holding a body of his mother. Even the current president of Armenia, Sargsyan, admitted the culpability of this massacre. In an interview to the British journalist Tom DeWall for his book that was published by New York University Press, President Sargsyan shockingly said the following, I quote, "Before Khojaly, Azerbaijanis thought they were joking with us. They thought that Armenians were people who could not raise their hand against civilian population. We needed to put a stop to all that." End of quote. Western media broadly highlighted this bloody mass killing. I will quote some of them. New York Times, March 3rd, 1992, quote, "Women and children have been scalped. Near Aghdam, on the outskirts of Nagorno-Karabakh, a Reuters photographer, Frederick Lenglange, said she has seen 2 trucks filled with Azerbaijani bodies." End of quote. Washington Post, February 26, 1992. Hundreds died in Armenian attack. I quote, "Hundreds died in Armenian attack. Of 7 bodies seen here today, 2 were children and 3 were women." End of quote. Dear Assembly members, AGR 32 is an immoral attempt to misguide you, and I urge you to reject the resolution for the sake of justice and peace. Do not reward Armenia for the Khojaly massacre, ethnic cleansing, and illegal occupation that they are doing.
right, thank you. We'll now take anyone else who wishes to register opposition to AJR 32. If you would line up and give your name and your position, please.
My name is Waqif Allah Verdi. I am American citizen, Californian citizen. I want to say to you that I am opposed Azerbaijan anti-democratic President Aliyev.
Okay.
Because let me say this, because believe me, that it is very important.
Sir, we just at this point we're just taking those who just name and your position.
Okay, I am a research scientist in molecular biology, and I say that this resolution is not right because it will bring new bloodshed.
All right. Thank you.
My name is Hadi. I am a PhD in comparative literature and culture. I have taught in Spokane University, Eastern Washington University, in Seattle, University of Washington, in Portland State University, in Berkeley, and this resolution is a baseless and lie, and it's impossible.
All right. Thank you.
People.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kimia Mammadova. I'm opposing AJR Resolution 32. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Chimna Shahbazadeh. I'm strongly opposed this resolution, Resolution AJR 32.
Thank you.
My name is Agil Manizada from San Francisco. I strongly oppose Resolution 32, AJR 32.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patty Howard. I'm sorry. Okay, my name is Patty Howard. I live in San Francisco. I oppose AJR 32.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nair Posang, and I'm strongly opposing AJR 32. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vali Ahmadi. I am strongly opposing AJR 32.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who would like to express opposition?
Hi, my name is Zarifa Musaiva. I am from Mountain View. I strongly urge you oppose the AJR 32. And by the way, I am originally from Karabakh, from Agdam. As Ms. Nalbandan, I also want to back my country, my region.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Amir Vizinia. I urge you to vote no on AJR 32, please.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Seymour. I strongly suggest you to reject AJR 32. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ibrahim Abbasov. I'm strongly opposed to AJR 32.
Hi, my name is Ali Harris. I am against AJR 32 strongly.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elvin Ismailov. I'm strongly opposed to AJR 32.
Okay, thank you.
Esteemed committee members, my name is Choba Chukash. I am a Sacramento native, and I am against the immoral AJR 32.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jae Hoon. I strongly oppose the AJR 32.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Elgin. I oppose AJR 32.
Hi, my name is Amil. I oppose the AJR 32.
Hi, my name is Sebar Musayev. I am against AJR 32.
Thank you. Others in opposition?
Hi, my name is Susal Aziz Aliyev, and I urge you not to support AJR 32. Thank you.
Adım həqiqətdir. Adım həqiqətdir, familiyam Quliyevadır. Mən bu qanuna etiraz edirəm.
My name Hagigat. I strongly oppose this resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Adım Nabat Muradova. Mən bu qanuna etiraz edirəm.
My name Nabat Muradova. I strongly oppose this resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Aydın Maralani from UC Berkeley. I'm strongly opposing this resolution.
My name is Mansour
Ashtar. Actually, I am opposing this completely. AGR 32.
Okay, thank you.
Against this.
My name is Rana Khalilova. I am against AGR 32.
Mən Muradova Cöhər. Sən gətirmə. Etiraz edirəm ki, deyə bilmirəm. Qəbul edilsin.
My name is Joher Muradova. I strongly against the AGR 32.
Okay.
I am Mehmet Aksin. I strongly oppose this resolution.
Thank you.
I am Rogay Rahimi. I oppose IGR 32.
Thank you.
I am Akbar Lakistani. I R P O Z R G 32.
Okay.
My name is Ayyub Hashimi. I am against this resolution.
Benim adım Gülməhəmməd Məmmədovdur. Mən xahiş edirəm ki, bu 500 min qaskını nəzərə alasınız, bunu rədd eləyəsiniz, qəbul etməyəsiniz.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to translate. My name is Gulmamad Mamedov, and I strongly urge you not to support this resolution.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Ishmael. I am against this resolution, AGR 32.
I am Said Nakhai. I like United States help. Everybody get the peace, love, live together. God bless United States.
I am Hamid Azari. I am president of Azerbaijani community in Northern California. I am strongly against AJR 32.
My name Etibar Mamedov is Belmont. I strong oppose IGR 32.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Hossein Berenj Frouj. I ask you please reject this resolution.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the public testimony. And let me bring it back to my colleagues to see if there are questions or comments from members of the committee, and then we'll have a close from the author. Questions, comments? Seeing none, Ms. Brown, please.
I've never been to Azerbaijani, but I have been to say it again.
Nagorno-Karabakh.
Thank you, Nagorno-Karabakh. There are few people today that have been there in this particular room, but I found the people there to be warm, friendly, hospitable, and they have a deep desire for self-determination and freedom. From all of the conversation that I've heard today, everyone seems to want the same thing. So as a result, all they want to do is be free to have their own self-determination, their own country, with their own president. And I don't know what the issue is other than the history that has been told from two different perspectives in this room today. I do understand when people talk about second-class treatment, and my heart goes out to each and every one of you in this room. I think the one person who came up near the last of this, he said, why can't we have peace, love, and live together? I think that is just absolutely wonderful if we could do that. I'm supporting this because I believe that people should have an independent nation, and they should be free to vote the way that they want to vote. So that's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chavez.
Well, I want to state that I appreciate everybody coming here and present their issues. I listened intently and very concerned about this. I also want to state that previously in the Assembly and on the floor, we had the discussion of ethnic cleansing, and I spoke very strongly in support of that bill because as one of the members in the Assembly who actually served in the military around the world, having seen what battles can do, that's why I firmly believe that we need to let people know that actions that we take up here, foreign policy issues, actually impact upon lives. But to one Assemblymember Brown, I'd say that when you look at the resolution, we're saying it has historically been Armenian territory populated by an overwhelming majority of Armenians, and yet was illegally severed from Armenia by the Soviet Union in 1921, placed under the newly created Azerbaijan administration, marked the beginning of national liberation movements. So some of the words here lead to the intent of conflict. I would like to give everybody a little bit of, since my graduate degree is in international relations, when you look at the United States, when we start forming the foreign policy, originally we had the foreign policy of defeating the Nazis in World War II. And from that, at one time we were with Russia. But at the end of World War II, we established, when the Soviet Union, after the Potsdam Agreement, Russia formed the Soviet Union and all the outlining countries, and people started being divided up, we became concerned as a country, and we started the containment theory. And that was the formation of NATO, CENTRO, and CETRO to contain the Soviet Union and not to allow them to expand. And during that time, along those borders, a lot of things were happening that none of us would be supportive of. After the Soviet Union fell, we kind of meandered into foreign policy, and then after 9/11, we started a foreign policy of war on terrorism. It's always been my belief that terrorism is a form of warfare, not a foreign policy. But because we did that, we ran off to Iraq and Afghanistan and continued that. Now the term you hear in foreign policy is self-determination. Well, that's nice that we talk about self-determination, but if we actually practice self-determination, you could find us involved in all sorts of things. For example, I'll give you Tibet and China. Would we support Tibet against China? Yes. Would we support Taiwan against China? Yes. Would we support Okinawa, Japan, separating from Japan? Would we support Chiapas separating from Mexico? So my point is, when you start going on to self-determination, then you start thinking, well, how do you do that? Well, today in the Wall Street Journal, you'll see that there's a big issue in Latvia right now with Russia as they're expanding in there. When you think about the Ukraine and what Crimea is all about, that's a continuing restatement of Russia as they see their foreign influence. And if you actually look at the military relationships between Armenia and Russia and where they're going, and now is going to Azerbaijan, it's a continuing expansion of Russia's influence. Putin's been very clear that he's looking at reestablishing the borders of the Soviet Union prior. So there are great implications that we're talking about. There are great implications. That's why I think that we in this body should stay within our circle of influence. You know, what do we actually, can we support? Should we educate our children? Yes, we should, on ethnic cleansing. Should we worry about water and jobs? Yes, we should. But should we go off and talk about foreign affairs, foreign policy, without the historical perspective and seeing what's going on? I would say probably not. Because just watch what you saw here. Two very passionate groups arguing back and forth on opposite sides of the same issue. We could have had this with the Palestinians and the Israelis in the same way. This is as a military person who often had to go off to fulfill the wishes of politicians, I would say be careful on your public policy. Because at the end of the day, the person who's going to be out there is a lot like that young man I saw Saturday at the USO. A young man with no legs, singing songs trying to fight PTSD and traumatic brain injury. Because they're the ones that are going to pay for this. Be careful what we do. There are implications to it. I would say we should, if we had a resolution to talk about supporting all friendly people and love, I would be all over that one. But when we start using terms pitting one against the other, then I'd say probably not a good idea. So I would recommend no to this resolution.
I'm sorry, please, no applause. No applause, please. Mr. Nazarian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to just get a few thoughts out. First of all, I want to take the opportunity and say thank you to you and the Speaker for bringing this very important issue up for recognition and for us to be able to cast our vote and to also have this hearing. It's not always easy, and sometimes, unfortunately, we far too often vote on issues that tend to be a little easier or geopolitically expedient, or sometimes the merit is based in areas, even when we go to war, on things that we don't know right at hand. Instead, freedoms, such expressions of freedoms and self-determination are used when we go to war, and only to find out afterwards that the country that we were trying to protect, or a neighboring country that our interests we were trying to protect there, had vast amounts of oil or maybe other geopolitical interests, carried the geopolitical interests that we had. To my colleague, Mr. Chavez, I just want to say you've been extremely thoughtful when I've brought up the genocide bills before the Education Committee. We've always had a great dialogue, and I very much appreciate all your thoughts and sentiments. I'm surprised that I'm hearing what I'm hearing from you, and while I very much respect what you said and offered the perspective, sometimes when we don't take action, they have other implications as well. And this is one such time. There are so many things that were said by the different individuals who are also not here anymore for me to be able to ask. I guess I'll just leave it by saying I myself come from a unique position where my father was born in Baku, just so everyone here is aware. My grandparents were born in Shushi. So to the individual who spoke about Shushi being taken away, it was actually a historical Armenian land. And
I'm sorry, please, no comments.
And
yeah, any more comments will be asked to leave.
My grandparents, thank you. My grandparents were forced out, and they settled in Baku. And that's where my father was born. Later, I think all Azerbaijanis and Armenians were not in favor of the Bolshevik takeover, and so everyone who could left. And so my grandparents attempted to leave and find their way to Iran. And that's kind of the history of my family. But there's been so much talk about tolerance and real model of tolerance. You know, the only thing that I can think of is for someone who speaks so much about tolerance, I wonder what Akram Aylisli, who wrote Stone Dreams, right now thinks when there's a state-sanctioned call for his pair of ears. This is an Azerbaijani writer, novelist, who is under threat by his own government so that his ears be presented. I don't know to who, but there's a call for action for that. So with that, not only do I support this bill, but I move it for a vote. Thank you.
I have a motion. Mr. Wilk, and a second. We'll continue.
Let Mr. Wilk second.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with you seconding. Thank you.
I'm going to let you second it.
Fine.
You're now.
I second the motion.
And Mr. Wilk.
First of all, I strongly support the resolution. I, however, did not seek to co-author it because I agree with you in many respects, Mr. Chavez, that we oftentimes step outside of our sphere of influence and our knowledge base. In this particular case, though, the line is so clear that it demands for us to speak and speak in a strong voice. I'm just going to take on random things that I heard today that I know, in fact, are incorrect. The people of the region call it Artsakh. Okay, it's been around since 189 BC. Yes, Nagorno-Karabakh, that means Black Garden, that's fine. But the region is ethnic Armenian. It's ethnic Armenian, their religion is Christian, and their language is Armenian. And they have had a 3,000-year relationship with the Armenian people. They were put in by Stalin with Azerbaijan. So that's one. Also, there's mentions here about the Armenian lobby. There is no Armenian lobby. It's a grassroots organization. Who has the lobby is Azerbaijan, that takes their oil money and they purchase lobbyists in every state capital across this country to pass resolutions that are historically incorrect. I'm proud to say that I helped kill a resolution in South Dakota a number of weeks back because the people there in South Dakota were given incorrect historical information, and we were able to set the record straight and get that resolution killed. Also took some shots at the Armenian government. Armenia is in a very difficult position. They're in a very dangerous part of the world. They have Turkey on one side that has a blockade. They have Azerbaijan on the other side that has blockaded them. So obviously you have to go out and reach out for friends. They do have a cordial relationship with Iran, as they should. It's their neighbor. And to the north with Russia and Moscow. I have been to I've been to Armenia, and they have a dual track. They have a foot in the west and a foot in the east, as they probably should, for cultural reasons, for economic reasons, and for protections, frankly, from their neighbors that are quite hostile. So we have that. There's also a regional international framework that's been going on since the 1990s. I had lunch at the U.S. Ambassador's house in Armenia, and he said it's the Azerbaijanis that are not coming to the table to try to resolve this. So when I hear what I hear, I mean, I appreciate your passion, but unfortunately you're wrong. And I hope we do the right thing today and pass this resolution. I've been there. You know, it's like Americans that come here and get naturalized. Their passion for freedom and for America is so palpable in everything they do. It was the same thing there. Particularly in Artsakh, I was just struck by how much they love freedom. I remember talking to the mayor, Shushi, and his wife, and they were talking about how him and his wife and his kids were out fighting the invasion with pitchforks and rifles against a full-blown army. And I believe that they're independent today because of God's provision and their desire to be free. And I'd like to see us acknowledge that. And again, Mr. Chavez, I agree with you. I don't like delving into these realms. But again, I've got firsthand information that others don't. And I would strongly urge you to consider and join me in voting aye on this resolution. And one thing I want to say, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. If I could close with this. During the perestroika...
Permission to read is
Thank you. Yeah, just one quote. Andrei Sakharov, who's a great intellectual back in those times, went down during perestroika down to Nagorno-Karabakh, and he said this during his speech. For the Azeris, Karabakh is just a matter of ambition, whereas for the Armenians, it's a matter of life and death. And that's an important thing to consider when we vote today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gatto, before you close, we do have a motion, a second, and I have serious trepidation about the California State Assembly engaging in international issues. I am going to vote yes today because I think that it is my trepidation about our engagement in international discussions is strong enough that I feel it really ought to be a discussion held not just here in the Rules Committee, but there ought to be an opportunity for this discussion about whether or not we should be engaging in these kinds of issues to occur on the floor. So I will support this to move it forward, and with that I'd ask you to close.
Sure. Thank you very much. And I want to thank the committee for taking so much time today to wade into an issue that, as all have pointed out, is rather extraordinary for us to weigh in on. These resolutions are rare. They should be cautiously done, and they should be done on issues that I think are morally clear. And anybody who reads about this region and the politics and the history behind this region, I think will find that this issue is morally clear. To those with some concern, I'll just say this about the precedent. I know we come from a common law tradition, and we're used to in this country the notion that precedent is binding. But I will also point out that we are not judges. We are the legislature, and we are elected with the express point of us exercising subjective discretion. If another resolution were to come up and be proposed, one that does not reflect the morals of this legislature and one that does not reflect the will of the people that we are elected to represent, then it would be completely within our legislative discretion to reject that resolution. But I would submit that this is not one of them. The people of Artsakh have been models when it comes to the democracy and the elections and the behavior that we hold dear as American citizens. This is very, very different from some of the other regions that have been mentioned. I will note that, I'll save you going through the long history of times where this body has voted on similar bills, Mr. Chavez, but one that comes to mind that we'll just mention is AGR 22 by Mr. Gorel, which you voted aye on just last year. And this bill had to do with Afghanistan, and by some of the language in the bill, we distinguished between anybody who read it and understands that region knows that there are that we made certain distinguishing statements vis-a-vis Pashtuns, Hazaras, Uzbeks, and Tajiks, and that's something that you voted aye on last year on the floor. And this one is, as I started by saying, I think it's a little more simple than that. When we initially thought about drafting this resolution, we were going to just take language from the United States Declaration of Independence. I think that it really is a apropos analogy here. This is a region that has fought for self-determination. I've heard so many of the stories, including that of Mr. Nazarian's family, and your heart really does go out to a people that just want to be free, have democratic elections, and hold on to territory that has been theirs for millennia. And this just urges Congress to consider a peaceful resolution to that issue and to recognize them. This legislature has done this before. We do it about once a year when it's appropriate and when it's a morally clear issue. And I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
We have a motion and a second motion by Mr. Nazarian, second by Mr. Wilk. The motion is to do pass AJR 32. Roll call, please.
Gordon?
Aye.
Wilk?
Aye.
Brown? Aye. Chavez?
No.
Dababne?
Aye.
Gonzalez? Hagman? Hagman not voting. Nazarian?
Aye.
Quirk?
Aye.
Ridley Thomas? Waldron? Aye. Motion passes.
That motion has passed.
Thank you.